Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here with another Musou review. I've said it a bajillion times that Dynasty Warriors is a series that got me into Koei and Tecmo, but it was Monster Rancher that I played first from the two companies. That being said, when I first started following them, they were just Koei. I started out like many people with Dynasty Warriors 3, except it was Extreme Legends that I played first. After playing a demo of Dynasty Warriors 4 on a PlayStation Underground demo disc, I couldn't help but start looking for that Koei logo on other games, and one of the games that I found was Crimson Sea 2 on PS2. This game was like a futuristic Warriors game, a pseudo Gundam game when you look at its gameplay mechanics mixing close combat fighting with gunplay. But there was one game that eluded me for years since the time that I started up Crimson Sea 2, and that game was Crimson Sea, the very first one. Crimson Sea was released exclusively for the original Xbox back in 2002. Then the sequel came out on PS2 in 2004. You know, I feel like this is where Kingdom Hearts may have got its inspiration for its game releases. So the reason why I'm playing the first instead of the second is because I saw a comment that said that this was exactly like Mass Effect. And for a game to be only a generation and 5 years behind Mass Effect and get that sort of praise, I want to see if Crimson Sea stands up to that. Now, I haven't played Mass Effect before, but we're still going to jump into this review with the first pro. First things first, for a game being compared to the likes of Mass Effect, it had better have a decent story. And I can confirm that this game is pretty damn good. Sho and Yan Qin, though it's pronounced as Yan Quinn in this game, are essentially for-hire investigators. When this woman whose name is, Live D? Well, she sure makes my D pretty lively. She hires Sho to retrieve something for her and ends up capturing him and Yang Quinn. She takes them up to the spaceship of the IAG and asks them to lead G Squad and she'll pay them. Joe takes the job begrudgingly, but Yang Quinn is finally happy to have a meal to eat. They then meet up with the useless members of G Squad and finish a couple of missions before finding out that Sho is a Vipa, which essentially means that he has superpowers that can make explosions. He's also the last Vipa according to Lord of D over here, and he's supposed to help rid the galaxy of the creatures called mutants trying to kill all of humanity and save the universe. It's honestly told in a lot better way than that, and it's very gripping. I honestly didn't want to stop, but games from this generation and back take a lot of processing power to render, so I had to take breaks between some missions to allow my Elgato to do its thing. I can't remember anything from Crimson Sea 2, but so far this game has a great story that makes me want to keep coming back. Con! There are some games where I can give a pass on the controls, even when they're not ideal for the situation. Games like Onimusha, Kingsley's Adventure, and Resident Evil all work fine with their constrictions. I still played those games alright and wasn't held back too much by their controls. Some of you may have put 2 and 2 together at this point, but for those of you that haven't, Crimson Sea has tank controls. Yeah, I don't know whose idea it was to use tank controls for an action third-person shooter, but it holds you back so much. Turning is a chore, and it can sometimes make you... oh god. Mutons will catch you with your guard down all the time because you can only really aim in front of you. There is a dedicated 180 button, but you'll forget about it thanks to the wonders of the modern shooter controls. For its time, it was probably passable, but I'm definitely not used to it. I feel like it does hold me back from getting the full enjoyment out of this game. I find myself in the middle of combat, really mowing down these mutons when all of a sudden I'm flanked and I have to turn myself 90 degrees. I feel like I'm turning a rusty gear. If this game was redone with modern controls, it would be in a much more playable state. As it is right now, it's about as practical as those swimsuits in DOA Extreme. Pro. Similar to other games around this time, Crimson Sea had implemented a tutorial that you could take at the beginning of the game. Unlike most tutorials though, this acts as an extra bit of story as Yang Quinn makes sure that Sho still has his wits about him. It's not just an NPC radioing in to say, "Hey, you see those mutons over there? Press the X button to shoot at them. Hold down the R button to lock onto them and make sure you don't lose sight of them." It's actually done very tastefully for the gameplay provided. I mean, there's one stage where you are being swarmed by mutons. Too much for your pathetic piddly pistol. So what do? You still fight until you catch eye of an item in the distance. You can swing your silly, sophisticated... okay, I'm done with alliteration. You fight your way to the item and find it's an upgrade to your current weapon. You equip the upgrade and your pistol becomes an auto rifle and your sword becomes a spear. With the increased firepower and range, you are better suited to take on these mutons. Again, it's not like your corporal comes on the radio and says, "Hey kid, you should pick up that item and press the back button to access your inventory. No, I don't need you! Then there's the overall controls. At first it was weird for me to press X for your gun and Y for your melee. Coming from Dynasty Warriors, I wanted it to be the opposite. But I found myself using my gun more frequently, so the control scheme actually made sense in the end. You also have your Neo Psionics set up as the white button, which doesn't feel too bad at all. You can hold the left trigger to strafe, and of course A is jump. This all isn't bad for an early 6th gen third-person shooter action game. I never felt like I was fighting the controls in this game. Well, at least not until... CON! Around a few stages into the game, you come to a point where you start visiting different planets and districts that need your help. These can be everything from escort missions where you need to guide the president through a mutant-infested area, to an auto-scrolling stage where you need to collect a certain number of things in order to progress, otherwise, it's game over. I don't know if I need to tell you that this is the worst part of the game, and it comes pretty early on too. And during the escort mission, you can even damage the president yourself. Wait, can we get a mod for this game? The overall feeling I got from these games is that they were thrown in for variety's sake. Some of them aren't too bad, like the one where you have to protect a ship while wave after wave of mutants spawn and Young Quinn needs to fix the ship so you can continue. But for the most part, it's utter annoyances that hinder the progress of this game and makes you feel like you're being forced to babysit, being forced to jump over hurdles, being forced to play a game you weren't expecting to play. Just give me more of that swarm stage. That was a lot of fun. Pro. You know, I'm not gonna lie, for a game that was released in 2002, this game looks really damn good. I'd even go as far as to say that this is the best looking Koei game for this generation. The cinematics are well shot, the angles are all well done, the character models are on par with what we would expect from this developer. The original Xbox's progressive display is put into full force for its time and really outputs a clean and crisp picture. I honestly didn't think Koei would be capable of graphics this well done. I've always said that Koei's character designs are really intricate, but to see something from this era of Koei's repertoire with this quality is just great. I keep saying I'd love to see a remastered version of Dynasty Warriors 3, 4, and 5, but it really wouldn't take much to remaster Crimson Sea. They just have to up the resolution a bit and give it to us in 16:9 and I'd be very happy. I would love to see this game remastered with the technology we have today. CON! Holy shit, this game is good! But you know what's not good? Crimson Sea 2. Now don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible game, but it just doesn't hold a candle to this first title. It just feels like it's mission after mission after mission after mission after mission. At least with the first game you feel like you're playing through an actual story, but with the sequel it just feels like cleanup. It's almost as if Crimson Sea 2 was all the rejected stages and ideas from the first game. The other thing is, it throws out a lot of the mechanics that were really good in the first entry. Stuff like multiple weapons, party building, and a huge lack of cinematics too. And what cinematics we do have are so lackluster in comparison to what we've had before. And sure, you get a new character, but Crimson Sea 2 still doesn't have the same customization options as the first one. Fine doesn't add anything. Both Sho and Fine only have 2 guns and 1 melee weapon. This is very different from the first game where you have a very wide array of weapons that you can use. And when you change your gun, your melee weapon also changes. It's a really cool idea and helps the first game feel so different from the usual shooter entourage. Wait, is this last con actually a pro? Look, I had to mention this because I actually first played Crimson Sea 2. The only reason why I wanted to go and review the first one was because the Xbox outputs a progressive display for its games where the PS2 doesn't, and the fact that I hadn't played the first one. I went to it expecting it to be worse, less refined than the sequel. I didn't expect the first one to be leagues ahead of the second title. While playing Crimson Sea, all I was thinking was, damn, I like the second one as much as I did? How? The first title is so much better than the second. Yeah, okay, that last con was actually more of a pro. I struggled really hard with trying to figure out what was wrong with this game. My biggest gripe was the tank controls. That being said, there are a few things that I'd change to optimize the overall controls. I'd still want to utilize the twin stick style of modern shooters, with the triggers being used for iron sights and shooting like usual. Then the X and Y button could be melee attacks, B could be your Neo Psionics move, and the shoulder buttons, or in this case the black and white buttons, could be used to switch between weapons and Neo Psionics. There's really no need for a reload button because the weapons are all energy based and reload themselves. If we got a Crimson Sea 3, this is the control scheme I would want. After all is said and done, I've gotta say I'm incredibly impressed. I never expect to get this hooked on the first Crimson Sea game. I did enjoy the second game, but I thought I'd just be, you know, okay with this one. I was pleasantly surprised with what I started up and couldn't put down. The story is well told and I want more of it. The multitude of weapons and the way the game treats you, the player, and how you learn its mechanics is great. Sure, there were some stages that were annoying, but overall, I enjoyed a lot of the stages that I jumped into. Some of the stages made you think, and even the annoying ones became more enjoyable once you had that aha moment. When you realized how to properly do some of these time stages or the escort missions, I felt like I had truly succeeded. Now, I need to give this game a rating, so I give Crimson Sea on the original Xbox a 7.5 out of 10. The game was a lot of fun, and I'm going to continue playing it because it deserves that. And even though I will sing the praises of this game, I understand it has flaws. The controls really suffer from its generation. Solid controls for this type of game weren't quite as commonplace as they are now. That being said, I will always ask for a Crimson Sea 3, a remaster, or a reboot. Please, Koei, don't let this be lost to the seas of time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Give the video a like and subscribe for more Musou goodness all month long. Do you remember Crimson Sea? Let me know in the comments down below. Special thanks to the guild who support this channel through Patreon. Don't forget you can join their names at the end of every video for just $1 a month. Check out the links and videos you see on screen, and I'll see you all down in the comments.